clip. So we have the whole Torah, God willing, all organized. Okay, so I'm going to take you to a few pictures. Hang on, go to my WhatsApp. And I'm going to show you, I posted, by the way, if you see the WhatsApp here, actually, I posted 2 questions. Somebody asked yesterday or a few days ago, how large were the tablets? And also what exactly was in the, what inside was inside the ark, the broken tablets, or were they? A fascinating discussion. I answered the question and I posted the link in the WhatsApp group for those who want to see more information. So, my friends, we've been learning so much. It's really amazing. We learned in great detail, right? Let's zoom in over here. Here's a nice little picture of the tabernacle, the Mishkan, what it looked like. We learned already in detail about the menorah, right? The first thing was the ark, but you can't see her because it's being covered by the curtain. Then we learned in detail, great detail about the menorah. We learned in great detail about the bread table. We did not learn yet about the ark, the altar that was inside there. We learned about all the beams yesterday, how they built this thing. And today we're going to learn about the curtains and the placement. You see where the menorah is, where the bread table is. And we're going to learn today about this beautiful curtain that you see here that's separated between the Holy of Holies and the Holy. So the room was 30 amos by 10 amos. This whole building was 30 by 10. It was just split into 2 rooms. The inner room was 10 by 10. The outer room was 20 by 10. Okay, so the whole thing was 30 by 10. It was split in half, and you'll see there is a hooks. We'll see exactly how it hung on hooks on a piece of wood. Look carefully. You'll see on top of this curtain. Actually, it's a very good picture here. There are hooks going out of the curtain onto a crossbeam, but that crossbeam is sitting on 4 pillars. Okay, it's sitting on four like what do you call those things? Pillars or big pieces of wood that were covered by gold. Had a crossbeam that the curtain sat on, and that crossbeam sat on those 4 pillars. In the front, by the way, we're just going to the front here. You'll notice the same thing as in the front door. We're looking at, there was actually 5 pillars. And see here, I didn't see this in the Chumash, but it looks like there was a space, like the pillars were spaced such that 3 to one side and 2 on the other side with a kind of a doorway, and then they had a curtain hanging over the front, same idea with the hooks and the and a crossbeam sitting on the pillars with the curtain that was coming down. So another thing you might have noticed, it's very interesting to me as we're learning this year, they keep on having a picture of cherubs. So on the Aron, they had cherubs. On the curtain now, they had cherubs. On the curtain hanging over the tabernacle, they also had cherubs. There's a debate. I saw Rashi brings an opinion that there were actually maybe like other animals. So it had a face of baby and the pictures of other animals. We're going to learn about the design. Was it embroidered or was it woven in? So very interesting how the Chumash keeps on having cherubs. We learned, just to remind everyone, we gave an interesting reason we saw is that cherubs represents children, and children is a very significant part of the temple, of the keeping of the Torah. That's the commitment that will keep the Torah. There's a lot of things wrong with this picture. I'm just noticing off the bat. The ark is placed the wrong way. I believe it should go the other way. The menorah is not diagonal. The bread table is all wrong. The bread's wrong on the table, you'll notice, and the table and menorah are in the wrong location. So for those of us in our class, by the way, I want to tell you something. Those that are studying it with me in length over here in detail, you're tremendous scholars, because most people don't know the stuff as well as we do. Those who have been with us here really have not taken the time. I know I never did in yeshiva even, to really study every Rashi, how we've been. So you can see a right picture and a wrong picture kind of over here. Some of it's right. I like this picture because it shows you like it's kind of broken open. I could show you all the things that are wrong, like even the fact that the cross beams holding on to the planks, they should be outside, we learned yesterday, not on the inside. So obviously there's many different pictures online. You can't trust a lot of what's going on, but at least you see the curtain splitting the 2 rooms. That's what I wanted to show you, with the ark inside and the rest of the stuff outside. So hopefully our class, the Jewish people, will be well versed in the Torah the right way, so we won't get confused from other things going on. So we'll know what's right and what's wrong. Okay, so that is a right picture. This is more correct. The menorah is angled. You'll notice the menorah is next to the partition. Right next to it is the table with the bread, which was also very close to the partition. Then there was the mizbeach, the small altar, which they burned the incense on, which was kind of in between the menorah, a little further out, but in between the menorah and the showbread. And it was 10 amas. In other words, it really was closer to the curtain than to the front door when you came in. Anyway, who's with me? Everybody with me? You like the pictures I'm showing, getting some clarity in the idea? I really think we'll be, those who are really studying in the class are going to be very knowledgeable and understanding the makeup, which is beautiful. Very, very good. All right, let's get to the Rashi for today. And we will study, my friends, today's Chumash. Inside, we'll show exactly the original words that Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu to build this tabernacle, the shul, the first shul that Hashem commanded us. And as we said, all shuls till today still copy these original pictures. Okay. So, Vasisa paroiches. You should make a paroiches. Paroiches is a divider, a curtain dividing the splitting this room that we built, right? We spoke about all the planks. You got to split it down the middle. You got to split it in half, okay? So you're going to have a room, which is going to be the Holy of Holies, and then you're going to have a room, which is the regular Holies, and then the higher grade room. And Rashi says somewhere here that it's like a dividing curtain, like before a king, you have a nice divider separating the king from the rest of the nation. So between the king and the nation. So Hashem, whose presence is revealed in the Holy of Holies, there's a curtain there separating the Holy of Holies to there. David Struma, are you with us? Very good, excellent. Okay. Tcheles vargamon v'selah shani. It should have 4 kinds of strings, that it's made up, the threads. And the Torah tells you what color the thread should be. So 3 of the 4 threads are wool threads. They're made out of blue, purple, and crimson. Okay, 3 different threads, blue, purple, and crimson. You take those 3 threads. V'sei lashani, your 4th thread is linen. And we said that in the Mishkan, we did mix wool and linen. Although a regular Jew is not allowed today to mix wool and linen, they mix those 4 different strings together to create this gorgeous curtain made out of these wool colors of blue, purple, crimson, and also this linen. They would together create this gorgeous curtain. Now, each of those strings were very thick. You know, when you thread, sometimes I sew on a button, they're very thin. You got to like double over the strings to make it a little bit thicker so the button doesn't rip. Especially if you had a good cholent on Shabbos and your shirt or your pants start to pop, you have to make sure that the thing. So in the Mishkan, they had it 6 times. That's how much times it went over. The blue wool was times 6, the purple wool was times 6, and the crimson wool was times 6, and the linen was, I guess, times 6. And together they wove this really thick, nice, strong curtain. And they weaved, we'll see, they weaved Ma'aseh Choshev. Look what he says. It was a work of master weaver. So they would weave it, not embroidery. You'll see what they'll do. Yasa oisa kruvim, weave into the tapestry, into this gorgeous curtain that's dividing, right? Made out of these beautiful colors. Weave into it pictures of cherubs. So when you weave something in, okay, it could be like a thick curtain. You could actually weave 2 separate images. One image is weaved on the outside and one image is weaved on the inside. They don't have to be the same image even. It doesn't have to be reflecting. So on this curtain that's dividing in the middle of the tabernacle, that's dividing the Holy of Holies from the Holies, it was a weaved picture of what? Of cherubs. Rashi says, some kind of an animal. Make creatures, make animals, some kind of pictures on these curtains. And those are the gorgeous curtains that hung in between the 2. We should have Avi Murmelstein on our class. He hangs curtains in different houses. So this is something that's very, very beautiful. Now, just to point out, the door curtain, which I showed you in the picture before, that will be embroidered. That will be needlework. That will not be woven. And therefore, on the front door curtain, whatever pictures on the front of that curtain, the opposite will be on the back, by the way, because you're using, I guess, needlework, and it goes through both sides. It's not weaved in on one end, but it goes through the curtain inside and outside. Those are embroidered kind of way it is. Like, for example, I think embroidered means like tefillin. Like if you have a tefillin bag, right, David, your tefillin bag, if you look at the name Dover on the tefillin, on the talis bag, you'll see on the opposite side the back to your name, because the way they sew it, the way they write it, you see the front and the back to it. So that's the way the front curtain was made, but the inside curtain was weaved, and therefore could be 2 different pictures on both sides. Okay. Verse 32. Let's go to the next verse. Talk about these curtains. V'nasata oisa. So take this big curtain. Okay, it's going to be 10 by 10. Cover the height and the width of the room, because the height is 10 and the width is 10. V'nasata oisa al arba amudei shitim. Hang the curtain on 4 pillars made out of pine wood. Right? We keep on learning this acacia pine wood. You're going to take pine wood, expensive big pine pillars. You're going to put them up. take those pillars, because everything there has to be top notch, 5-star, 10-star, has to be covered with gold. So those pillars that you're placing have to be covered with gold. Mitzupim zahav must be covered with gold. Even the pillars that you're hanging the curtain on needs to be covered with gold. Vaveyam zav, and the hooks coming out of the crossbeam that the curtains will sit on, they should also be gold. The hooks that the curtain hangs on should be gold. Al arbad nekesef, and that crossbeam should be sitting. So basically, the curtain hangs on a crossbeam. The crossbeam sits on those 4 pillars, and under the pillars how do the pillars stand? How do you get a pillar to stand? Either you dig a hole in the ground, but this was movable. They're not digging holes in the ground, right? So they had the silver sockets. So the 4 beams sat on silver sockets that gave them the ability to hang the curtain onto those 4 beams that were standing over there. Okay, that's the verse. That's the main idea of the verse. So to go back to the picture for a minute, something interesting. Okay, let me go back here for a minute to the other picture, and hopefully we'll be able to understand this together. Let's go back to the picture for a second. Okay, so this inner room, the Holy of Holies, the smaller room, that was 10 by 10. By the way, the curtain was 10 by 10 because it was 10 high and 10 wide. The next room was 10 by 20. This room now is 10 by 20. That's how it's split down the middle. But I want to show you another picture. If you remember, let me go back to the WhatsApp that we have. Okay, back here, this picture. Let's go back. If you remember, so here are the curtains that were on top of the tabernacle. Here's another picture. This is not a good source. I don't know where this picture's from, but it's actually pretty good because you see there were 3 or 4 different coverings that covered one on top of another, the tabernacle. I want to go to this picture. If you look on this picture over here, right, you see 20, that's the tabernacle. The smaller room is 10 by 10. The longer room is 10 by 20. Now, something cool, let me see if I have a picture of it. So you'll notice, here's the curtain that's overlaying it, okay? The curtain that's covering the top of the tabernacle. So you look to the pictures on the left. Notice that it was split 5 by 5. Here's one. This is the lower curtain, okay? So if you'll count the sections, it's made out of 10 sections. 5 to the left, 5 to the right. This is just an interesting point. The ones to your right, if you're looking at the picture, has 3 sections and then another 2 sections going down to the back of the tabernacle, right? So each side has 5, but on the left side, the 5 sections are covering the top fully. On the right side, the 5 sections, 3 are covering the top, and then 2 more are covering the side. So we said something very interesting, where the 5, basically the way it was made, if you remember when we learned it, it was 5 sections and 5 sections that were then with a hook was put together. You see this, you could see the seam even in the middle of the of where the 5 curtains touch the other 5 curtains. That seam, that's exactly where the split was between the Holy of Holies and the Holy. So when you hung that curtain inside, it hung right underneath that split between where the 2 sections of 5 curtains met up together, right? Anybody with me? Anybody remember what we learned in the past? Yeah? Okay, because we learned that the way top, everything's like, when you learn this well, everything's like falling into place together. Very nice. Okay, let's go back to the text. So you're putting up the middle curtain, you're hanging it, we said, on 4 beams that were made out of pine wood that were covered with gold and with golden hooks, and you hung the inside curtain over there. You should place, verse 33, this curtain under where the 5 curtains meet up, the hooks meet up on top. You should place it 2 curtains. That's where the divider of the Holy of Holies from the Holies meets up, right over there. That's where you should place the curtain inside to divide the big room into 2 rooms. Tachas hakrasim, under those latches where the 2 curtains meet up on top. And you should bring from outside the curtain, inside the whole, what's the one piece of furniture that goes in that holy room? As Arein Ha'edus, the holy ark, right? That's where the tablets were that we got from Mount Sinai. And the curtain should be set up as a divider, as a partition, between the holy and the Holy of Holies. And by the way, the Holy of Holies was only allowed to go into once a year. Only one person was allowed to go in there once a year, and that was the high priest, that was Aaron. So this curtain is a very important, it's dividing between the Holy of Holies and the Holies. So go put the ark in there, put the cover with had the cherubs on top of it, on top of the ark. Kodesh HaKadoshim, and the holy is holy. So he's now placing everything where it goes. Where do you place the table? We learned about this. And so now that's the only furniture in the Holy of Holies is the ark. Put the curtain down. Now let's talk about where everything goes in the outer room. Put the table with the bread, which we learned about outside. And against it, in the opposite side of it, is the menorah. So the menorah and the table, the bread table, are right next to the curtains. One of them should go on the southern side, and the table should go on the northern side. So they're both, Rashi says, 2.5 amos away from the wall. So the whole room is 10. So you basically move, the whole room is 10. So 2.5 from the southern wall, 2.5 from the western wall. You're going to place the table and the menorah, okay? And they're going to be next to, near the curtain, not far away from the curtain. So that big room that's 20 by 10, it's closer to the curtain side of the room, further away from the entrance to the door. And that's what it was. So we have the menorah and we have the table directly, one on the northern side, one on the southern side, right outside the curtain in the room of the holies, that's outside the Holy of Holies. By the way, just Rashi tells us, where did the altar go? The altar went kind of in between, a little bit further away from the table and the menorah was the small altar where they would burn the incense on. Verse 36. And what about the door? You got to make a door. You should make a door to the door of the tent of meeting, because there's no covering. All the coverings went along the north, south, and western. What about the eastern wall? So the eastern wall, which you should also make a curtain, a partition, a screen, a cover for the door of the whole tent, of the whole Mishkan. Tcheles that should be made of tcheles argon, say the same colors, blue, purple, and crimson wool, and vishesh mashzar, and the twisted linen, again, 6 times, get each set for 6 times, use the same thread colors that you use in wool and linen that you use for the same colors that you use for the partition inside. Also, the front door should be made of the same colors. However, it should be maaseh roikim. This should be embroidered, which means that whatever you see inside is the same image you see on both sides of the curtain, the way that it's sewed. And that is the thing. And also, I believe it says somewhere, it should have pictures. Let's see, verse 36, the last verse for today. You should make 5 beams. The inner curtain hung on, I believe, on 4 beams. This is going to have 5 beams, which the curtain would sit on. You should paint them with gold. They're also the hooks that are holding the curtains up should also be gold. Everything's got to be gold. However, the floor, the bottom, are sitting on sockets which hold the beams up from falling down. They should be copper. The beams that held up the middle partition, they were gold. The bottom, the sockets that held up these beams, they were made out of copper. And that is the end of today's Chumash. So we learned today, we're learning so much. We learned today about the curtain inside, the curtain outside, and the placement of the items inside the Mishkan. And we're almost finished building the Mishkan. God willing, we'll see it very soon when Mashiach comes. Any questions or comments on what we learned today? Evan.
Yeah, were any regular people allowed in the Mishkan?
That's a good question. So tomorrow, we're going to learn about the courtyard. Tomorrow, we're going to learn about the courtyard. I'll show you a picture quickly, actually. Stay tuned, which most of the action took place. Most of the action took place in the courtyard, not even inside the thing. I'll post that picture tomorrow for you. The Mishkan is that little room inside, and the courtyard is the outer room. Even the inner room, only the Kohen went inside. Both of those rooms. The high priest only went in once a year. The outer room, the Kohen would go once or twice a day to clean the menorah, to set the menorah. And the bread was really the Kohanim. I believe only the Kohanim were allowed to go in. In the courtyard, I know, if I remember correctly, at least from the Beis Hamikdash, when they're going to build the Beis Hamikdash. So let's talk, for example, in the Temple Mount. So where the actual ark was, no one was allowed to go either. The high priest was only one allowed to go there once a year. Out of that room, only the Kohanes were allowed to go. Then there was a massive courtyard. It's basically a huge section on the Temple Mount, or in the Mishkan. It's going to be much, much bigger than that little room, much bigger, significantly bigger. They would bring the sacrifices there, and the Levium would be allowed to go, I believe, to a certain spot. Like yourself, you're a Levi, you'd be allowed to go to a certain spot. I don't know where Yehuda went. Yehuda was allowed to go almost all the way in. And the Levites, Evan in our class, was allowed to go, to a certain level. The Israelites had to stay kind of on the border, bring their sacrifice and watch as their sacrifice was being sacrificed. So depending on who you were was the closest you're allowed to go. So I believe actually you're right. This room was not that frequented by everyone. It wasn't everyone. I believe there were certain points we learned in the temple, they would move the curtain aside and everybody could see in. So if they would open up both partitions, it was possible to see all the way in. I don't know if they would ever open the second partition, but the first partition maybe was open at certain times and the people could see. Maybe it was like once a year, Yom Kippur, something I'm remembering vaguely, when they would actually be able to see inside.
Gotcha.
Yes,
Okay,
Ira.
thank you so much.
You're welcome. Good question, Evan.
So on the pictures, you showed us the drape. That was pretty elaborate. Is that just,
They said the women who sewed it were extremely talented in sewing these things.
they describe everything so meticulously. It's a description of what the drape actually looked like? Because each drape looks different on the two pictures you showed us.
But so I pointed out to you in our class, being that we're so well versed, we've gone through this in such detail. You'll notice in the second picture, there's a lot of things. There are a lot of things that are wrong with it. A lot of things. The bread doesn't look like the bread's supposed to look. The bread table is supposed to be next to the curtain. The menorah is supposed to be next to the curtain. This altar is supposed to be further away. Okay, the ark is it's diagonal. It's supposed to be it's supposed to go. It has to be turned to the other side. It's sitting wrong.
Right.
The beams that are the long cross beams that are holding the big pillars together that they shouldn't fall are supposed to be on the other side. The pillars are supposed to be right next to each other. I'm saying it's like pretty cool. When we study now, you could really see what's a kosher picture and what's a non-kosher picture, what's a real and what's a not a real picture, basically based on this. Unless this is unless I'm making a mistake, unless this is a picture, unless I'm saying everything wrong, and this is a picture from another Mishkan later on. You know what? I shouldn't say things. I'm not 100% sure, but this is not the way. It seems to me that it's incorrect for a lot of the reasons.
The other picture that you showed, the more correct one.
Yeah.
The other one the other one with all the drapes over the top.
Again, I think this is the same. I started looking for a second. I don't know. So by the way, you'll notice, you see the outer courtyard. You see there was a big fence that went around this whole room. This looks somewhat right. I'm saying, because if you count, like, for example, we just learned that there was 5.
Right, but I understand, but my question is, see how they're all different colored and all
yes, they were. So we learned the red skin, dyed red skins. We learned that was red. Yes, we learned it was red.
Right, but the other ones, like the one was...
And then we learned the one under it was woven goat here.
Right.
We learned that it was woven goat here. That's correct. So maybe that, I don't know if they know exactly. And the one under it had cherubs on the first one. They had pictures of cherubs on it. So maybe this is somewhat correct, possibly.
Okay, but then when you showed, I'm just saying that you showed the picture where it separated the two rooms.
Right.
There's like a paisley, kind of intense, psychedelic, let's say, I don't know, design.
I don't know how they know. Look, there's a lot more to learn. I don't know if they had that design. I have no idea. Good question.
I was just curious if it was stated anywhere what the design actually looked like it's stated for the other ones.
One of the things, by the way, in the news, if you look up the news today, something really cool is that we keep on saying about this purple color, right? We keep on saying one of the colors it was purple, was basically the wool. I think they found recently that purple color. They actually found certain material that lasted. If you look in the news, it was big news like a few weeks ago. Someone sent me an article. It was all over in Israel. They found stuff from back in this time, from when the Beis Hamikdash was built, and they still had the original purple color. So they were all excited that they think they know what the purple looked like. That's what we keep on talking about in the Chumash today, which is fascinating. That's what I'm saying. We're learning this stuff now. Imagine you pull it out of the ground and you see some of the stuff. When you learn this and you learn it and you see the stuff and all of a sudden you pull it out, it's literally unbelievable. It's amazing. Look in the news. If you look in the Israeli news, you'll see this purple. It made national news. It was big news. They found the original purple, seemingly from some of these colors, perhaps. I'm not sure, again, which color exactly. But anyway, it's fascinating stuff. All right. Very good point, Ira. Thank you, Evan and Ira, for participating. Anyone else have any questions or comments before we move on to the topic of Tanya for today? Okay, so let's do